It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, and go. Hello, welcome, nitty gritty. Actually, it's gritty nitty.
Yeah.
I think we're up to episode 7, but who's counting? My name's Tosca Jackson. I'm joined on the sofa, as per usual, by
Michael Emmett, nice to see you.
And also opposite me in his
It's
yellow
Mark
sweater.
Dempster.
Mark Dempster in a yellow sweater. We were just having a chat off air about what it is we're going to talk about this week. And we have decided to talk about sex. Ooh. Let's talk about sex, baby, as the lyrics that rung out in my head. And we're all getting older. You know, I'm nearer 55 than I am 60, but it's getting close.
Starts to wobble. Really use your tumble it. You poor dear.
It's getting close. I know. The invisible line is coming up fast. I don't know. I might have crossed it last week, but I don't know. And just to open it up, let's just open it up. And I'm going to ask a really broad question of all of us. You know, are you getting enough sex as an older man?
Okay. Yeah, I think I am, right? And I think I am for sure. But there's periods where it's been less so when I've been single again for a period. But
so
which opens up, this will open up another whole conversation about dating and stuff, but and internet dating and availability.
How long we got?
Well, it's for you.
So
it
for me, it opens up. It opens up because I'm getting the shovel, man. I can see I'm getting boxed in. Right, guys,
we're waiting.
Right. Okay. So right. Okay. So what does it look like for me? I mean, the whole thing. It's a very different. I mean, first of all, getting older, as I know we're going to talk about that.
Right.
That point separately, but with I think things have changed so much as a result of modern technology.
Right. Okay.
And
But
availability. I'm getting right now, right today. I am getting enough sex.
That's good to know.
And at certain periods, you know, and I'm a satisfied.
That's a relief.
I'm a satisfied. There's always a part that's not that could want more. Right. And now the thing is about this. Right. I've always thought that my libido as an older man. I always thought, when you get over 50, man, that's going downhill, right? Or because I associate my ancestors, my father, my grandfather, when they were in their 50s or 60s, they were like old men. They were they looked like older men. They were like older men, and so it's different. It's you know, I'll let go for it, Michael.
Me? Yeah, okay. Am I getting enough sex? Well, at the moment, I'm not in a relationship. That hasn't prevented me in the past from having sex. But of late, I'm not having sex at the moment. I've had my fair share, like we all have.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. So, I was funny enough, I was thinking about it this morning as I was getting into the bath. About
when most people do think about it.
Yeah. It was quite nice. I was rubbing myself down in. No. I don't know what made me think of it when I got in the bath. But is it a bit too far? Sorry, mate. Okay. So is that better, Steve?
Yeah.
Hello, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I was thinking about the sort of relationships that I've had over the years, yeah. And then I realised it wasn't just about getting in bed and having sex. It was wanting to be wanted because I didn't feel good about myself. So that shouldn't be in your love life, yeah, because I think love is based on an action of verb, do, togetherness. So I've a lot of my relationships I've had, it was always without being disrespectful to the women that I've slept with, because I've embraced many, many beautiful women. But I didn't understand the value of what sex really meant to them. You know, I thought it was always about how I was feeling and what I wanted. And it was mashed up with a lot of addiction. You know, I had early experience of being sexually abused as a young kid. So I suppose that changes the sort of environment that exists in the natural way of making love, I suppose. But am I getting any sex a day? No, I'm not. I find it quite cleansing, to be honest with you. I find it quite refreshing. And what I've noticed, and as much as you say about your age, I understand it slows down a little bit, but it doesn't prevent me having that urge or feeling aroused. It's still available, yeah? But for the first time in my life, I suppose everything I want to keep away from to change, to better myself, let's just say, and one of those areas was my relationships, is about abstinence. So because I'm abstinent from a relationship at the present, it seems to be doing me a favour that I don't have that desire to want to go and have sex. And that's the first time for me, because it's checkered me, it's hampered me, it's checkmated me, and it's cost me dearly my dishonesty around sex with other women.
Do you know, it's interesting. Years ago, I was on a men's weekend, and then on this weekend, it's a really intensive sort of therapeutic weekend where people, and there's a particular process on this weekend where men are expected to really get really vulnerable and talk about what it is to be a man, about their sexuality. And so each man gets up and talks, and they hold this phallic object, right? They hold this, it's the shape of a penis, and they talk about what it is to be a man and what sex, really, the gold and the shadow, right? The idea is that they bring, you know, their sexuality, what that's brought to the table, really, how their sexuality has created joy and happiness in their life, but also to talk about the shadow side, right? To talk about the sex addiction and what it's taken away from them and what it's cost them. Yeah. And I'll never forget this weekend, because there was a father and a son on the weekend, and the father had only just got reunited, and part of why this father and son were on this weekend together was to create this bond again. He thought, and the father got up and he says, I've had 4 marriages. He says, I've been married to 4, I've been married 4 times, and I've cheated on each of the relationships, and I've had 2 children, you know, like he'd had like 7 or 8 children, right? And he says, and the only child that's talking to me is my son, who's just here on the circle right today, like, and I tell you, there was something about, you know, this man was about 72, 73 years old, and as he started talking about, he's saying that, you know, the joy that he'd felt in the first marriage, the first 2 children were born and the thing, and then how his desire, how his dissatisfaction, not having enough, wanted more, and his lust, and then, you know, and then the pain, and as he was talking to it, he started crying. This older man started crying. He was, because he was reliving the thing, and it was so powerful, because you know, you have this I had this experience where I thought, if I wasn't on this weekend, I'd never hear the wisdom this older man's, like, he's given to the group around. He was basically saying, you know, the grass is not greener on the earth. Yeah. Your head will tell you that I'm going to have this experience, and this is like, I'm going to go down this road. It's like the blue or the red pill, and I'm going to take the red pill, and then, but as he was talking, and at the end of the whole process was him and his son was like crying, and then the son and the father started, like, embraced, and we were all, I mean, it was just like a whole group of us all, and there was something just like, I just thought, that's exactly, you know, the way that the mind operates, isn't it? It's like I look, it doesn't. And Michael, when you're talking to it doesn't matter how beautiful. I remember being in Serbia and Belgrade, and I'd chatted up this girl, and she was beautiful, and I was in the room with her, and I remember having sex, and she was gorgeous, and she said, I'd like a coffee. Can you get me a coffee get me a coffee from the coffee bar downstairs? And I went down, and I looked at the receptionist who was making the coffee, the barista, and she, in my head, I thought, she's more beautiful than the girl, and I want to get that girl's phone number. I want to get, and it's that, never enough. It's like,
okay, I think
we're going into
it's
enough.
really interesting what you're saying, and as you were saying it, I was thinking, thank God for the sex that I haven't had.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Well,
kind
that's
of
a great statement.
Aye.
yeah, because
Yeah,
there's been
well.
lots of situations
Yeah.
where I haven't had sex, and the kind of consequences would have been catastrophic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that a lot of the time, and and it's really it's really interesting about how sex affects the ego, right? So and the reality is, and if you're under 18, please put your hands over your ears. People are gonna have bigger cocks than you.
Yeah.
Girls that you slept with are gonna have better lovers than you.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of whole sort of
Aye, absolutely.
and there's
Absolutely.
a whole sort of mental disturbance.
Then it becomes a performance, doesn't it?
Aye,
Well, but
yeah.
there's a disturbance that comes with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Slight trauma could be.
Go on, this is great. Go on, let him go.
And there's a
Let him go.
disturbance that comes with that.
Yeah.
And it's so, and the whole thing is so precious, right? Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. The whole thing is so precious that I think a lot of times, especially in my younger life, I disregard. I didn't understand the importance of
Great shout.
what it meant, how it should be.
Yeah.
And look, put it this way, right?
Yeah.
For anybody out there in radio land or YouTube land or wherever land you're in, is that I'm definitely not a they, I'm a him, and I don't take drink and I don't take drugs, right? And that's a personal choice, and it isn't the reason I'm sitting here today, but that is a facet that I want to share with people. And yet, one of the only times I've ever felt like drinking and taking drugs was me and a friend. We were involved in a project with an organisation called Blesma. It's a British limbless ex-servicemen's association, and we were doing some music for them for their to raise money. We were doing a record for them, and we went there, and they told us me and my partner at the time, they told us the history of war, right, and the history of war. And if you're blown up, the first thing you check is to see if your penis is there.
Yeah.
That's how powerful this is. And they showed us the whole history of it. And in the 80s, when the IRA did a lot of bombing in Colchester and around the barracks, they used to put all the car bombs under the seat. They used to be in the engine, but they started to put them in the seat because they wanted to blow your nuts off.
Yeah.
They wanted, that strikes at the heart of a man.
Yeah.
The ability to or not to do. And it's kind of like, okay, so as you get older, prostrates get bigger. And this and libidos
erectile
drop off.
Erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, libidos drop off. And it's kind of like, okay, so, how does that affect you as a man? And, and I have to say, I'm petrified.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm blown up in a car.
No, I'm actually petrified around a prostate.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people turn around and lots of conversations are, and it's funny, a guy that I'm very, very close to, I've had prostate issues for a while. I'm declaring prostate issues for a while. And I told him, and he I said, you need to get yours checked out. You're slightly older than me. And he had it, prostate cancer. And what people say is, it kills a man every 10 minutes and the rest of it. And it also says it can be stopped and treated. But the problem is, sometimes it's at the cost of your manhood.
Yeah,
That's what they don't say.
Yeah.
They tell you, they tell you it saves your life.
Yeah.
Prostate cancer, but you can't get
I know, an erection anymore.
you can't get an erection anymore. And so what happens then is the consequence of, you might be married, you're in a stable relationship, and that goes out the window.
Absolutely.
And I am petrified of that as a process.
Yeah.
I really am. And it's kind of, and so for me to be petrified of that, if someone turned around and said, well, you can lose your arm.
Yeah. Or you can, you would take,
I'll take the arm.
You take the arm.
I get it.
Yeah. It's not being able to do that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. It says a lot, in my head.
Yeah.
Says a lot about you.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a very, very, the sexuality, what you derive from sex, what your process around sex is, what you think of yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great topic, actually, because the more we are talking about it, you can open this right up.
But the more you think about how aligned you are to that, and I would literally say that, if I just turned around and said to you, well, you know what, Mark?
Yeah.
In 6 months, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. Yeah? 6 months' time, it's all over.
It's all over. Oh, my God. Yeah. It's shocking. It's traumatic.
Do you know what I'd like to jump in on? You said something at the beginning of what you said. Is how beautiful and innocent it was early days that I feel without us knowing. Right. I think sex is about two people.
Right.
Yeah. And when we make it about ourselves, which I've done a lot of the time, it's all about me. It's not about what I can do for you. It's what I can do for you if you do it the way I want you to do it, because I'm this or whatever, down to sex, drugs and rock and roll or whatever. Right. But I think, and I don't want to get into the Christian stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But the pre-marriage, let's just say, and I'm not saying you have to follow this advice. Yeah. I don't think it's like whether you believe in God or not. That's not the issue. But let's say it's not a commandment of do. It's a commandment of love. Yeah. So if you take the love from it, by respecting that other person, and then it becomes where two or more are gathered together, rather than this guy's got a sex addiction, he wants to be, he wants you to know that he's got a big Hampton and he's better than your last lover, which all happens. It's like a counterfeit. You go on the beach in Spain, you can get a lovely pair of Ray-Ban glasses. They're about a score. Right. You go up the road, they're about 300 quid or whatever. The score, it looks exactly the same, but within a day or two, it's gone. And I think sex and love, there's a counterfeit there.
Okay, but I think you're.
No, let me just finish. I haven't finished saying what I'm saying. So, and that's okay. I'm just talking for me, yeah. But I think if I had the ability to nurture my sex involved with love, you haven't got to be married to be in love with someone.
Yeah.
But I think if you agree to love in any way, shape or form, then I think the making love becomes part of something really special, which I haven't had a lot of.
Okay. So I would say that we're talking about,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think we're talking about two different things.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's
in what way?
Well, it's a bit like, Marvin Gaye's album Let's Get It On, right? Yeah, Let's Get It On. It was What's Going On, Let's Get It On, 1973. It says love is sex and sex. Yeah, and and both are quantifiable.
I'm talking about the joint effort of both people agreeing whether it's sex or love.
It's not. We're having a discussion. It's kind of like I hear what you're saying, right? Yeah. And my sense is, I was listening to someone late on the TV the other day, and and I've seen it twice actually. One on Love After Lockup, if you ever watch TLC, and another one on a program called Secret Crush. Yeah. Where people were looking for a throuple. Couples, that they were looking for a third person
Right.
to join them.
Right.
Right now, it's kind of like whatever gets you through the night. You know, Beatles sung that in the mid-60s.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the idea. So it's always about, you know, your interpretation of what it means to you, right? So
Right.
if people are sitting, and I think to myself, yeah, you know, if someone sits around and
Yeah.
says, I have a deep desire. So there's a woman on one of these shows who says, I'm in a relationship with another woman. We're in a sexual relationship and we want to bring a man into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she basically said, I think I'm closed off emotionally. Yeah. To this third person that I'm bringing in, but that's what I want to do. And I think that where, you know, traditionally, right? Yeah. Traditionally, and because of my age, being born in the, you know,
Yeah,
the
60s,
the mid-60s.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know, that
Yeah.
I'm programmed to move to a certain place, right? I'm programmed to move to a certain, because I read Lady Bird books at school, and I read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and, you know, James Bond always got the girl. Do you know what I mean? It comes from that place. But as we kind of move into, you know, deep into 21st century, people express themselves sexually in completely...
Absolutely.
It's
a different ballgame, yeah.
And completely...
That's a different subject.
In completely different ways. And so the idea of... And so it's kind of like the idea of there being a have-to, right? Yeah? Of there being some sort of way to kind of process this, and it being about two people. I don't necessarily think it's about two people. For me, it's more about how I'm driven by it.
Yeah.
So it's about my shortcomings, it's about my inadequacies. Did I do that? Can I be bothered? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, and I'm getting to that stage, which scares me, right? Yeah. It kind of scares me that I ain't as bothered about it, yeah, as I used to be.
Me too.
But also, what I think...
And so, in respect of that, it's like, is that some sort of measure of my manhood?
Yeah, and I think we're really in interesting times, right? Because if we think about it, right, our forefathers, right here, we could take our phones out and within 10 seconds, we can see more pornographic imagery than our forefathers would have seen in their whole life. You know, like within a minute we could see. I mean, within even shorter period than that, we can see so much. So what does that? And we live in a society now where there's abundance, isn't it? It's like, so we came from a place. We all thousands of years ago.
It's
we
interesting
came
how
as a
you
place.
align pornography.
Well, because I think what it is we live in a time now where whatever you want, you can have it. Really,
Right, okay.
I mean, in that book, he done that book Sapiens Nouveau. We done it, and then he'd done this book Homo Deus, and he talks very much about how as we move forward, we're moving forward with technology at such a rate of knots. Yeah. So what that does, all these social platforms and apps bring to us right away the abundance, isn't it, we can have, whereas we would have came, and especially if we didn't live in London, say we lived in little villages or something, where you would only see the local girls and all that. There would be a restriction on what you could have possibly had, really, unless you came to the big city. Now, if you came to the big city, even, there was only the nightclubs or the bars maybe that you'd go, but now, because we can literally just at your fingertip can just go on an app and or several apps, and you can align within a radius with GPS. You can just go, boom, there's a girl here, there's a thing. I can have that, but equally, so what does that do to the reward?
Yeah, but I think it also means, what is our drive that you said a minute ago? So what's the satisfaction we're looking for? Is it self-gratification? Is it to have an orgy? Is it to feel loved? Is it to have anal sex? Is it to have whatever we want? So, and I think if on a natural ability, I think we're programmed to be naturally in love, making love.
Okay, so
but there's a change to it. But I just think my desires are only ever met if it winds up in a way where it's, and I've done it loads of times when my desires haven't been met because I've just been selfish. And I wanted what I wanted because I was driven by this
insatiable appetite.
You know, and I wanted to put my stamp on it, and I wanted you to know that this was I. And then in the cold night of day, laying there out me nut on trumpet, thinking, what am I doing here? Cocaine, that is. The madness that gone on. There was no satisfaction in it. Whatsoever. I thought it was. But I couldn't afford to pay the check. It was too expensive.
And the emptiness that you feel then. So then you come down.
Yeah.
Now, no one tells you, because everything's geared. All these movies, Wolf of Wall Street, is all geared towards this, the media. If you had these, Baywatch looking, the whole, if you had this, if you had that, and you had loads of money as well, you would be happy, or you're going to have this satisfaction. But no one tells you about the down, like when you've been so high because of the anticipation, the adrenalization, where you want to have sex or you want to have this experience, and then immediately when you orgasm, almost immediately, you're like, boom, the emptiness, the vacuum opens up. But I think she's walking out the door, or you're walking out the door, whatever, you feel that vacuum.
I think you know that.
But we know it. But a lot of people,
I think everyone knows it.
Yeah.
I do. I think that it's, you know it. Do you know what I mean? You know it, but because of sex, right? Yeah. And what it means to you,
right?
And how much you've got wrapped into it about how you feel about yourself, right? And how much of this represents who I am.
Right?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So go back to that.
That's a great point.
You're going to keep doing
go back to that.
But that's a great point. Yeah, go on.
You're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So therefore it's our brain. It's when we are a child. So the message maybe we get through media, through our parents, or through thing, is that if you can secure this, or you have sex with various women who are attractive, or your view has been attractive, then somehow that'll make you, that'll reinforce your masculinity.
Yeah.
But actually. You need to keep doing. You would need to keep doing it. You'd need to keep on reinforcing it in some other way, and underneath is the shaky,
not necessarily.
insecure. Maybe
not necessarily. You don't have to keep reinforcing it. What happens? I think. Is when you're put in that situation. That's the place. That you're gonna go. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit like it's. You can
that's changed for me, though.
And it's because when you start to talk about, you can go on apps and you can do this and do that and blah 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 and do that, and to me, that's a concept, that kind of scares me in a little bit. Do you know what I mean? It has no sort of. I think I'm beyond that, right? I think I'm beyond that. I think I'm beyond looking at places to get satiation where I know I'm not going to get satiated. Right? Okay. So what's that about? It's just about the sex. That's what it's not.
So I was saying sex and love are different. Are we go on?
This is we get back to.
Look, sex and love are definitely different. Right?
Absolutely.
But what it is, and the point I think I'm trying to make about myself, is that I always knew. Right, when I was, having sex. Let's say I'm having sex for sex sake, and Mark put it really succinctly: as soon as you orgasm, you fucked. Hello, I must be going. Is that the time? Because it's like. It's like going on holiday when you're a kid and it's the last day. You've got to go home. You know what I mean? I don't want to go home. And you know it's coming. But he still doesn't. You know it's coming, but he still doesn't stop you going on holiday. People don't go. People don't not go on holiday.
But we're duped. We're duped by a biological drive. Now, bear in mind, right?
That's right.
Biological drive is hunter gatherer. We would have been like
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, look, this is primitive here, but
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah,
if
be
you take it
careful,
all
easy,
back,
Tiger,
easy.
Yeah.
But if you go
Talk about
back,
grabbing their bars and stuff.
oh, what's he going to do?
No, I'm sorry.
It's a bit, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you think of that biological drive as to procreate and the whole emotion that comes, we are duped by the falling in love thing as well. The first state. This is why, right? What you're talking about, Michael, which is really relevant, is from a sort of more spiritual perspective. They would have said, look, get to know that person way before, so that because really, if you get to know them, you would soon because the biological drive is to procreate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that you're having children
Yeah.
and you're there for a year and a half. Now those hormones, those love hormones, wear off when you enter either you split up in a year and a half or 2 years later, or you find another because the love
It all
hormones
comes into the recipe.
because it's not real.
I think that your script is an old one.
No, well,
Yeah, and I think
okay.
that
I feel deeply offended. But
I don't think it is. I think it's
no.
hang on,
If you read any Bradshaw stuff, honestly, they say.
Hang on. I just feel that kids today.
You're talking about staying together. Right,
That's different.
That's
hang on. I think that people today, right, don't have that as a byproduct of having sex. They don't, as a byproduct of having sex, I'm going to be with you, I'm going to stay with you, and we can get married and have kids. Right?
No, not at all.
They don't.
Not at all.
So when I was growing up, I can remember being 7, 1973, whenever that was, I was 7. And I'm in my house, and my cousin's girlfriend's going to university, right? Yeah. And old Tommy is distraught. Right, because Rose is going to university. I'm like 7 watching all this. You know what I mean? And it was like the end of the world. She was going to university, the relationship would be over, he was still doing his apprenticeship, and that was it. And he married she went to university in Cardiff, and he married someone 2 or 3 years later, had kids and blah, blah, blah. But his relationship with Rose had to end because she left. But the fact of the matter is, you looked at the statistics, most people married their first girlfriends.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We come from a time, right? Yeah.
Oh.
There's a drama on now called Our Friends in the North, which is Christopher Eccleston, Mark Strong, Gina McKee, and Daniel Craig from 1996 on BBC4, and it takes you through the ages. And people had sex, had babies in the 60s when we were born, and they stayed with each other. Do you know what I mean? We're going to make this work. We're going to do this, and all of that. So what happened there is that the urge, right, or the sexual kind of the revolution, as it were, hadn't started, right?
Yeah.
Because we hadn't, there wasn't a widespread of the pill, and all of this sort of stuff, affected, my childhood and the idea. I remember my girlfriend when I was 16. I thought I'd marry her. I literally did, People, if you said to my daughter who's 18 that, the first bloke you can, she'd laugh at me. So what I'm saying is that sex,
No, that's the condition of society.
but
we're talking about what sex and love can do.
No, what I'm talking about is what sex represents to me. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying with my manhood, how I feel when I get involved in it. You know what I mean? And how much credibility, I give myself. How much of a man I am.
Oh, well, because we know, and I'm sure maybe you guys can agree on this, but if it goes south, as in, if you're in a situation, right, which a lot of men don't talk about, because you grow up in this thing where everybody's macho, nobody's had erectile dysfunction, nobody's lost it in the thing, but when, if it does go south and you're like, and you're in this situation,
I'll own it. I'll own it. You know what?
Can feel.
I'll own it. I've gone south, right?
Yeah. Same.
And I've gone south, and I thought, fuck.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Is it ever going to work? Is it ever going to work again?
Yeah.
Is it this? Is it that? And I'm stressed. And it's kind of like, and it's mortally wounding at that point in time. It's not something, I've stubbed my toe, it'll be all right in the morning, I've hurt my elbow, I've got a headache, or the rest of it. It has far more significance than that. It's deep-rooted, It's deep-rooted in what I think about myself.
So what does that suggest? It's a very, very powerful thing that we've got. Whether born in the 70s or born today or born in the 50s, the desire, it's not friendly to the environment. It doesn't think, oh, look, we're out of Victorian stages. My addiction is a Victorian addiction. It still has that drive to do whatever it does. For me, for my opinion, because I've struggled with it, not struggled with the sex, struggled with the intention behind it, the dysfunction that's come with it, the reality of, oh my God, what the F and hell am I doing? But still didn't stop me progressing into a dysfunctional sexual relationship in a lot of my relationships. And I think today, from my own experience, and I'm getting on a bit now, so I don't know. But I've never tried, I don't think, to experience sex under the unction of pure love. And I just wonder what that does to the ego or the prostate or the addiction. I've never I've touched on it. And I think we've got to realise the women in the world today, this is not class distinction because I love women. But I think we sometimes undervalue who we are in that moment. And I often wonder, do we get the best out of women? Because it's all about our prowlessness and how dirty we can be, or how big me Hampton is, or whatever that is. And I just wonder if that takes the special. But maybe girls like it that way as well. I don't know.
I was just thinking maybe girls want a big Hampton.
Yeah, maybe they do. But I'm just talking about how I feel the destruction of a heroin addiction. To a crack addiction, to a sex addiction, right? They all have them same sort of. My sex addiction nearly cost me my life. Right. So do I value that urge to go and sleep with someone else's wife because my prostrate or my dick or whatever it needs? So it has a value that's absolutely stupid. It's pathetic. Costs money, costs friendships. And I wonder, wow, I've obviously got it wrong somewhere. In that dysfunction, and yet I was still driven to the darkness of it.
Okay, but that's because it's the root of your manhood.
I know there's a root.
Maybe that might have a shout there. Just 1 second.
Go for it. No, go for it.
That has value. That it's just dropped in. So that's a great. I love this guy. He's very, very clever. This boy. I like what he does. And he's good in his stuff. You're right. I'll tell you why. Because I suppose when I was sexually abused at the age of 6, that really tapped into my manhood. That abuse, that vulnerability, that less than, that frightened and excited. Because I kid you not, after a couple of times, it became something that I thought, I quite like that feeling. I'm not sure I felt that, but somewhere in here, it grabbed hold of it because it influenced me, and we're out on air now. It influenced me how I masturbated for years because I copied what was done to me. So it must have had some sort of influence on me.
Absolutely.
To put that out there in the open market. So the dysfunction grew and grew and grew. I suppose, so my challenge was, will it ever be normal? And yet the high anxiety level of the excitement of me being in someone else's bed when I shouldn't be there was unbelievable. And yet the come down from the dishonesty so sex to me became a taboo subject that really I didn't really enjoy. And I wonder, could it be a really sort of self-healing if we enjoyed what it was really all about?
And that's where
it's really interesting.
Absolutely.
It is a fascinating, and what I'm drawn to, right?
It's the size of your Hampton. That's what I'm drawn. Sorry, beep.
No. What I'm drawn to is this,
Excuse me.
I'm drawn to ego, self-image. Ego, self-image, and being with somebody, right? How I'm with somebody, right? How I'm with somebody, and
Three good headings,
and
yeah.
how important that is.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How I'm with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they got to think I'm all right. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for
They've got
sure.
to be enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking about. I went to see James Brown, right?
Yeah.
In about 1984, right?
Right, yeah.
And it was at the Hammersmith Odeon, and he weren't as sprightly as he used to be,
Yeah.
right? But he's one of the greatest dancers of all time.
Great,
right?
yeah.
And he's doing all these moves, right? And they keep telling him to do the splits, right? So he goes down, I'm right on the front, he goes down, does the splits, sitting in boats, killing him, do the splits again, goes down. And that's why it's kind of like, you do it because you have to.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, that's a goodie. That's a goodie. That's a goodie.
It's like push comes to shove, right? Yeah. It all ends up, you don't turn around and go, today I've got erectile dysfunction and I won't be
It's not happening to me. I'm really sorry. The ego's happening.
It's not allowed.
Yeah.
You won't allow yourself to do it.
Yeah.
You won't live. Couldn't get hard on today. That was perfectly fine. Get back on the tube, go home. I'll give you a call.
I wonder.
I'll give you a call next week when it's all okay.
But
I wonder if the disappointment after the orgasm is based that we haven't fulfilled our potential.
About the connection, because really what we're doing is, I mean, if you look at it in a way,
It's
we're both
cognitive
agreeing.
dissonance.
If we're just having
It's what,
sex,
darling?
It's cognitive dissonance. You're completely out of sync.
if we're just having sex, so say I arrange to meet somebody tonight, and it's just a pure sexual one. It's like we're both agreeing to use each other for that purpose. There's nothing we're going to meet. I'm going to meet them here in Harley Street tonight after we get rid of the thing, all the cameras, and then we can keep the cameras here. We can have another film. But I meet her here, and she's and the commitment is I'm using you and you're using me, right? We're both agreeing that's it. That's all there is, right? And there's no spirit, there's no emotional connection. It just simply is, right? And I think with that then comes, but also what you talked about, Mike, where too also is about that high octane experience that goes on as a result of whether it's trauma, whether it's some type of role play, but that there is incredible. That is incredibly powerful when you interact, you meet somebody who wants to reenact something or who wants to, and I think this is difficult, it's challenging for both men and women, is that say you start reenacting some type of experience and you have this sexual experience which is really high octane. It's when you meet somebody where it becomes that addictive part, the reward pathways is going. This is like the cocaine of sex. This is like the crack really of sexual experiences. But then you're sitting with somebody, or you're in bed with somebody that you care about, and you have that emotional connection. But you're coming, so you don't have that element, but you might have something very deep and loving and spiritual.
So then it becomes about intimacy. So
that's the next one.
So then it becomes about
that's different.
So this is what we're talking about. It's the difference between intimacy, difference between intimacy and intensity, isn't it? And mistaking intensity for intimacy, isn't it? We can mistake, because it's so high octane, this is but actually we don't mistake it really.
We don't mistake it.
I'll tell you what's helped me. Sorry, Tosh, because your brain's a lot sharper than mine, and I forget. I'll tell you what's helped me. So if I don't want to get into all deep therapy, but I'll just use my mum for a minute. Put my mum there. Then I'll put my children there. Then I'll put I've got 8 grandchildren, 2 granddaughters. So I do generally love them. I do generally care for them in a way that I've never really understood about caring for women before. So maybe that's helped me. But where it is for me to now, over the last, I think, maybe the last decade to 5, whatever, I've started to respect women more because they're not ticking the boxes that I think they should tick to my desires. So I've started to have relationships with women, whereas before I could be sitting in with a woman, don't fancy her or I'm nothing special, but after 10 minutes, I blimp the breast, I'd have a look down the strides, and before I know it, the conversation we're having about whatever we're talking about, it then gets disturbed by what the thing starts to think.
Absolutely.
And then you
Michael,
think, then I think, God, have I just spotted her knicker line? Or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Now, because I've come away from that, I don't know how it works. It's like the obsession to want to use crack.
Yeah.
I now have relationships with women, which I'm very happy to have, and it's not driven by, I'd like to put my hand down your trousers. Or if it is driven by that, I can quickly have some sort of else that I've gained in my recovery.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute, that's just a delusion in my mind. So it's enabled me to respect women more, and I have... Seeing women have children has made me realise, you know, how beautiful women really are, rather than just let's get it on with you because I like the underwear you wear, and that was a lot to do with my sex drive.
And that's and I
the
tell you,
dishonesty of being caught.
And I tell you, it's really interesting to me. See that experience what you just described, because I remember in India years ago. I met this girl and we've been travelling. We've been travelling. Listen, I've been travelling, right? I've been travelling and I met this girl. We were on the top of this bus going up the Himalayas and we were both up the top of the bus, but she looked great. She just wearing like combat jeans and all the rest of it. And did it. Anyway, and then it started getting dark. So I didn't really, so I was up and I was chatting with her on the top of this bus. And in my mind, I thought, she's not all, you know, this was, she's not all that. This is the thing, mate. You know, I didn't really fancy her. When we got to the hotel,
Funny.
She went into the room, she cleaned herself up, she came out and she was beautiful. Right? And I remember the change of, because all of a sudden, this part, that insecure little child or boy, whatever, teenager, was like, I want to have this. And the ego, then I've got to try and impress her. I've got to
normal.
But
that is normal.
That is normal. But it was.
It's where we go to when we're rejected. That's the dangerous part. And that's where I think it comes into running with him. When we're rejected, the ego around the sex, it completely goes off scale.
I just feel, and
how dare she not want to kiss me, or she likes him better than she likes me? What a lot of nonsense!
The pain of that, the pain. Now that's a whole other subject.
I wonder if it's just desserts though. We're being punished for all that.
Do you know, in a session I had over a Christmas bank holiday. It was a Christmas bank holiday. I think I told you about it, Tosca. I might not have told you, Michael, but my ex-wife, and I remember sitting with her, and this guy came into she says, James is going to come to this thing. I'm in this house for the whole weekend with this guy, James, and my wife was 18 years or 19 years younger. James is the same age. James's ex-girlfriend had the same name as my girlfriend. And I remembered as he walked through the door, she said to me, before that she thought he was hot. She'd said it about a year before about her anyway. And I descended into this real insecure, and then I'm observing every type of motion, you know, like as she's talking, we're round this big Christmas dinner party, having this dinner party, and they're playing games and Christmas games, and I'm in a place of absolute pain because I keep on looking and the jealousy, the green eye, but you know, I'm looking at her, and it culminated at the end of the night where it was 11 o'clock. God, I thought, I can't stand. I says, I'm going to go to bed. And she says, I'm going to carry on playing cards. We're all playing cards, and James was in the card school, and I, because I thought she was going to say, I'm coming to bed with you, darling, of course. Sure. And as I know. But what I'm saying is that core insecurity opened that up, and I had this argument with her, and she says, well, if you want to fucking leave, just leave. Right, and because and it was 11. I remember it was like 11:30 at night. She threw the laptop across the room, and then she says, "Just leave." And I remember thinking, if I walk out this door, and James is still there, James is still in that house, my head's going to go completely crazy. But I remember the pain. It took me back. That core wound was like that a sense of abandonment. The child really that I'm going Aye, I'm not enough. And I'll tell you what happened, right?
Back to the
mad?
ego.
The ego, right? And what happened, how mad was this? As soon as I knew I'm going to be in trouble, look, I was 18, 19 year clean at the time. I thought, if I walk out that door, she's going to turn her phone off and my head's going to, and I'm way up in Durham, near Durham. I was thinking, God, and I've got to get back to London. I'm going to be like 4 hours driving and she's not going to pick her, and my head is going to go into, I could possibly create the thing that I'm so frightened of, is that I'm going to be she's going to go off with this guy. And I says, no, I'm not leaving. I'm going to, listen, let's have a hug. And she went, all right, okay. And we started having a hug. And then we came down and James went to bed. And as soon as James walked out, they go to bed. The relief, man. The competition, this is back to this is gone. This threat is gone.
Bless you.
But it was one of the most painful. And I think actually the closest I could possibly get to maybe thinking about using, I didn't think about using, but I thought that's a really vulnerable position to be in. Because she was my higher power. I mean, really, I'd made this girl my like if I lose this, then what am I without? You know, what am I without? Or if I get rejected, you know.
Yeah, and that ties into the whole manhood thing, him being better than me, yeah, and how, you know, and how that makes you feel, because on a certain level, right, yeah, and this is the painful part, right?
He would make a fantastic therapist, this kid. He would make the best. He really would.
Yeah. On a certain level, right? Yeah.
His knowledge is incredible.
He was better than you.
Well, in what way, Todd?
The parameters you set for yourself.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I created
listen, this is gold. This is gold.
I created it's better than me. Yeah, go on.
He was more attractive than you. He was this, he was that, she was more into him. You created him.
I created it. I created it.
You know what I mean? And so therefore he was better than you.
In that moment. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the problem is, and you know, and this is, you know, and I have a similar story, right? I have a similar story. It's kind of quite funny.
Tell me your one then.
I'll tell you my story, right?
Yeah.
So I'm young, right? Yeah. And the essence of this is control, right? Because you're completely out of control in this situation.
I'm powerless over that. Right. Powerless over it all, really.
So I'm young, I'm about 20, and there's a girl, I don't want to say her names. There's a girl, right? And I really like this girl, and my mate really likes the girl, yeah. And there's a couple of instances like this. So we go out, me and the girl go out, but I can feel his aura, the geezer.
In your imagination.
No, I can just feel, because we're all in the same sort of group.
He's there with you.
No. But we all go to the same clubs. You know, we're all in the same scene, and we're sitting down and we're talking about, and we go out on like a couple of dates and whatever. But he's looming large, in this sort of situation.
He's a threat.
Yeah, and always remember, she works at the NatWest on the King's Road, right? She works on NatWest on the King's Road. And I had a conversation with him, right, saying something like, I've just had lunch with XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? Do me a favour and leave it out with her.
Yeah. To you.
You said
I said that to him.
You said that to him. So you sort of threatened him, really?
Yeah. Like, I want to control the situation.
Yes,
control the situation. And what I found out 6 months later, he met her that day after work.
Oh, pain.
Right,
Yeah.
But when I look back on it, right? Yeah. That was always going to happen.
Yeah.
Because she liked him more than me.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the bit.
That's the acceptance.
That's the bit you've got to
Yeah.
That's the bit you've got to contend with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, and as much as I said, you know what, leave, blah, 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 no, you like, blah, 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 leave it out, you know, we're good pals. And blah, blah, blah,
I
think that's just my gear.
Absolutely. Tosca.
You've all got to understand me.
Tosca, just round the corner.
Great way. That's fantastic.
Just round the corner.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I was once going out with a girl,
Brilliant.
and we
I like that.
and she, the guy,
Simple, that's
she was
right.
having a scene with this other guy, and I came in and I got into the flats where she was. It was just University Street. The poor girl's dead now. She died of an overdose. But what happened is, I smashed in, like, I was standing at the door, I was like, listen, I could hear they were in there. I'd knocked on, at first I was like listening, got into the flats, I was like,
What was your
knocked on.
intention?
My intention was to catch her out. I got this feeling, I was in the car where she drove a BMW at the time, way back, and she was trying to get rid of me, and I thought, there's something going on, right, let's just feel it, and she was trying to drop me off. She dropped me off at Warren Street Tube Station, and her flat was just across the road in University Street. And I stood at the corner of the block, and I seen this guy that I used to sell weed to going into the block. I thought, what's he doing here? So anyway, I got in behind this old couple to go in, because it was an intercom thing. Got in behind, I was up, listened at the door. Like, so what, basically, I could hear them laughing inside. So I crashed the door in. Well, I knocked first, and then nothing, it just went silent. So I crashed the door in. He had his top off. Like, she was sitting on the side. She was still with her top on and stuff, but he was sitting there, and I steamed in to him, right? So I steamed into him, and then, but I didn't know he was a judo expert. He was like, I didn't know, man, right? So he fucking tied me up, tied me up in seconds. I mean, had me down. I had me like jiu-jitsu stuff. Got me down, tied me up. I was like, let me up. I says, I promise. I promise I won't try and do anything, right? Let me up, and I'll walk out the door. As soon as he let me up, I grabbed it. There was a bottle of whiskey sitting on the thing. I grabbed the bottle, hit him with the bottle, and he done it this time. But he tied me up, and she jumped on my back, and that was it. I was thinking. But the ego, man, I remember getting taken to Vine Street Police Station, I think it was at the time. I remember being in the cell, and she got me nicked for criminal damage for the door, and the pain of that. Do you know what I mean? Because I was like, and
you were second best.
Aye,
that's what it is. Yeah.
And then also getting the humiliation of actually like going for it and then getting beaten. Really, it's like a double whammy. It's like physically, and then so it was what it was at the time, and then years later on, she wound up, carried on. I mean, I never got back with her that time.
Well, clearly not crashing doors.
Yeah. But no, after that. Okay. But so it's
okay. So look, we prattled on over
I think
allotted time, but
yeah,
I think there's a lot to digest. And if you're out there in Radio Land and there's a review section, please write, down what you think and how your ego's impacted you and what sex means to you. Do you know what I mean? Is it the be all and end all? How would it be for you if suddenly you couldn't have sex anymore? You know what I mean? How intimate could you be with your wife? How could you, how could you cross that? Yeah. That plane to kind of like getting her some sort of satiation, you sort of say some sort of satiation. How mature are we all?
And just on that last thing, what Michael said, I think is important, right, about that, which I think is really relevant, about, the objectification. When I was doing a programme for a while on this, like, when I abstained, no sex, no pornography, no objectification, as in like the 3-second rule, walking down. Yeah. There was something that happened in that process. I was 9 months. I remember being 9 months, right?
Something does
and there
happen.
was something that very, very powerful happened, right? And one main thing that happened really early on was I realised how much energy I lose on walking down the street, looking, fixing, getting fixes on. Now, I know we all objectify to some degree, right? Or we can objectify, but when I took away all the acting out, and I was just, and at the time I was doing loads of meditation. I was really like focused on sort of the meditation. And I felt something inside. I felt really. There was something.
No,
I felt
there is
really
something
clean.
in that, yeah.
I felt really clean. And I
Okay,
felt really.
what I find quite interesting about that, right? And I suppose it's happened to me like over the past 3 or 4 years, is that that's really diminished for me, that objectifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you understand what I mean? Like looking at someone and they'll be like this or they'll be like that. I want to do this, I want to do that, and maybe right, yeah, that's as a result of my libido.
Yeah.
And getting older.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe that's a result of that. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't really.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's a satisfaction in it as well. There's a big satisfaction that you're not governed by something that's not real. I think for me anyway.
yeah, and it's not, and
It's a relief sometimes, to be honest.
yeah, and maybe I just think that's sort of beyond me. Not,
Yeah.
I don't say it's. I suppose it's like anything.
Values are changing, maybe.
Yeah, I always think that the beauty of turning 50 is I stopped becoming. My ambition just went overnight.
How about you starting realising that you're a lovely man? Yeah, no, please let me just finish.
Yeah.
That you have a value in a partnership to love someone unconditionally.
Yeah.
And there's someone out there who wants to love you because you're lovable, and you enjoy that. And then the brand, let's say, of a love relationship has sometimes one of the things we do is we make love to each other.
Yeah, listen,
I wonder if that's just so
I know what.
normal.
Listen, I endorse that.
Because you're a special boy.
We're gonna leave it on that. Find someone to love, and have great sex, and we'll see you all next time.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Amen.
That was
Amen.
good. Do you know what, brother? You've got a gift. I'm not sure. You've got a real gift. A real good gift.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Maybe I can turn that into something.
I think, no, I'm being serious. I've listened to a lot of people in recovery. I just want to say something here. And I've told him this before. I've heard him do 2 chairs. Yeah. One was 22 years ago. And one was in lockdown. Right. Yeah. And I remembered both the chairs vividly.
Yeah.
And they're 20 years apart.
Yeah.
And each message,
nice.
and I thought, oh, blimey, Tosca. And each time I've heard him do a chair, and I think your message, I don't even think it's your message, I think it's your experience.
Yeah.
And I think what you've achieved in the kerfuffle of all this fucking stuff is that you can speak something and do something that helps you improve your life and enjoy your life, because there's a massive difference in you. Massive, and not massive difference, but you just seem to have that cool equilibrium.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I wish I felt that about
Isn't it interesting when we get affirmation, whether we can take it, we can receive it, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So but one thing I
you're
do
good
recognise, I do recognise that I do have the sort of pause. Yeah, I don't run away. Yeah, I don't run away, and that's, my head doesn't kind of run away. It kind of, I can kind of bring it kind of back to the centre and get some sort of perspective.
Clarity.
Yeah? Until I don't.
I've got to use the toilet.
Right, listen, should we just do that one that says for today, or what do you want to do?
I'll get another one.
Right, okay. Okay. So 26. No. Let's do another one. If
let's
we
do
can
another one.
Right, maybe do a shorter one then.
Okay, so if we.
In a rush or what?
Well, no. I'm just thinking.
There's something going on. There's a Polish bird. I'll be 1 second.
17:45, right?